So David, how did you first meet Francis Bacon?
Well, I was a junior photographer at the Tate Gallery. It was 1985, summer. I was probably about 30, I think. And I was asked to go up, meet Bacon. His exhibition was being pretty well finished hanging, but there was a few gaps to do some press photography. So I toodled upstairs, and I was a little bit, not worried, but I'd heard that it could be a little bit difficult at times. But he was absolutely perfect. He was very, very friendly. We chatted a little bit, not too much. I found it quite difficult to read his face. His face stayed quite still, whatever he was saying. So I couldn't gauge if he was happy or not happy. But anyway, so I got him to pose in different places, and he was delightful, and we got on quite well. We weren't joking with each other, but we sort of got through it, and it was half an hour, perhaps 40 minutes. So that was that. And then the next day, I think it was the next evening, it was the launch, and I'd already printed up some of the images, and it was a VIP launch, I think, so and which I don't think he enjoyed. So where the photography department still is actually, is in downstairs in the basement, and just outside the photography department is where the art handling area. So he came down about upper 6 o'clock in the evening, with a trolley full of drink and wine and all sorts of things, and set up for a party for basically technicians, people that did the doing for the exhibition, and which was great. So I quickly thought and got a couple of prints out that just see what he thought of the prints, even though he would have seen them maybe giving them to the press, as they were giving out to the press. And so I wandered out and just showed him and asked him what he thought. And I said, "Do you like them?" He said, "Yes, very, very much." And he turned around, got a pen and signed a couple of them and gave me them back. And that was the first and second meeting, really. And I was very happy. I was not disappointed. That was it at that moment. But yeah.
Yes. It must have been quite wonderful, really. Very hospitable of him, wasn't it?
It was.
Generous.
Yeah.
Because the art handlers and technicians often get, a bit forgotten about, and they work so hard. Putting up an exhibition is really hard work, and getting it right.
He did, in this little party, he made it very clear that it was going to be a casual occasion. No speeches, nothing. But at that time there was a manager of the art handling staff, and he was quite pompous. I won't mention any names, but he stood up and started to make a speech, and Bacon quickly spoke over him and ended that. That lasted about 20 seconds, and he stopped it, and then it was back to just drinking and partying, which we all enjoyed for the rest of the evening. So were you there then?
No, I wouldn't have been included in that, I don't think.
Well, we weren't. It was just outside our department. Yes. But we all attended. It was
yes. No, I didn't know about it, actually. I can't remember knowing about it. No, it was, that was very nice, because you didn't hear that side, mostly, of Francis Bacon. We were always sort of rather afraid of the idea of him, really, and we didn't know about him. Didn't have any personal contact, no. So.
I think everyone had heard that he could be difficult, but he was absolutely delightful. So I thought it was great, very good.
There might have been assumptions made about him from some of his paintings, because
Possibly.
A lot of people found his paintings so difficult, and they thought, well, the artist must be really difficult as well. But I think then we didn't have as much information as we do now. I mean, this was the 1980s. You know, not so much is known about people. I think people's lives, people's personalities, you know, artists, musicians, people who are famous for their work. Also, we know much more about their personalities now than I think we did then. They were sort of mysterious, you know, and not very approachable. You know, you didn't really know them. You weren't expected to.
I think, going back to what I said earlier, but his face is very unreadable. It's very straight and very. When you're talking to him, it doesn't move. In my experience, he wasn't sort of nodding or saying yes or smiling. It was just blank. But that didn't actually portray what he was like or what he was thinking, which is quite interesting.
Yes. So that's like his paintings then?
Like his paintings,
yes. Earlier. Yes,
Yeah.
That's right. That's what's going on inside, yes.
Yeah. So, pushing forward many years, we both moved to Wivenhoe in Essex to live, only to find that 4 doors up from our house was the house owned by Francis Bacon, where he lived, which was sparked a new interest in both of us, and we ended up getting a blue plaque put on the front of his house, which is very good. But the local stories are mixed. He did seem to change with alcohol, I think, was the...
He was really nice until he had a lot to drink, yeah.
But he's been remembered well, you know, in friendly terms as well as naughty terms.
Because there was an arts club in Wivenhoe,
Yes,
wasn't there, for a while? Proper arts club, yeah.
I believe so.
So, yes, yeah. Not that far from our house, where we are now. It's quite an unassuming little house, isn't it? Terrace cottage, rather sweet. He demolished half the interior, didn't he? So he
That's
could
right.
make a studio, so he could get a really big window space, because the views from there of the sky are fantastic.
Yes, but the current owner had to have it reinstated quite urgently, as the house is only standing because it's been held up by the houses next door.
Yeah, because he took out a whole floor, didn't he? Yeah, that's right, yeah. Dickie and Dennis.
Oh, Dennis Worth Miller and Richard Chopping. They formed a relationship, romantic as well as artistic, and they lived in Wivenhoe to start off with, and then they became a threesome, which
Bacon,
is
yes.
with Bacon, and that was what we believe is quite a fiery relationship, but interesting all the same, and you can see the cross-fertilisation of ideas between Bacon and especially Dennis Worth Miller, which is the exhibition.
At first sight, yes. Yeah. About 3 years ago, yes. Which we were talking about earlier, Worked Miller, because we didn't know about him, did we?
No,
quite
not at all.
Extraordinary insight, actually, into really how. Well, there's a theory that he really heavily influenced Bacon himself. So you could see where it was coming from, but they didn't get on, did they? At the end, it all ended rather badly.
Yes,
their relationship.
There's been a few different stories and books written about them, but none of the. What I gather is lots of the books don't agree with each other. So stories have become legends, and legends become stories. So which what actually happens is we don't know. So, but it makes interesting reading and living with people that knew him. Makes Wivenhoe a great place to live, actually.
It does, actually, yes, yeah. But we had no idea when we moved there. We just thought it was a little quiet, place on the estuary, on the river. With a fast train linked to London. And then we found ourselves in the middle of this sort of artistic melee, really. We've got lots of very good, living artists living there as well.
So, quickly going back to when I photographed him, sorry.
No, it's all right.
You can see how the way he posed was exactly the same. His facial His face was the same, hand in the same pocket, and he was professional.
Inscrutable.
He didn't twitch. He didn't look. He knew exactly how to act and how to stand. I was really, really impressed. So it's good.
Well, I had a less auspicious meeting with Francis Bacon. Yes, it was. I used to work on the information desk at the Tate Gallery, as it was then, and this was the late 1980s. It would have been, so it probably wasn't that long before Bacon died. And I think there was only two of us on duty, and the other girl was on her lunch break. We were all very young, I think. We were all in our early 30s, and I was there on my own, and I looked up, and it was very quiet. And these three gentlemen came in and came towards the desk, and I looked up because we didn't even have computers then. It was so long ago. We used the big books of the great big, I think 3 great big books, which was the catalogue of the collection of the Tate Gallery. And I looked up, and with horror I realised that one of these 3 was Francis Bacon, and I sort of froze. I was terrified, actually. So I just thought, oh God, this is going to be difficult, because I sort of had a feel. I knew what he was going to say, and because this is what happens: people come to the Tate Gallery and they ask to see their favourite paintings, whether or not they've painted them themselves or not. So that's exactly what happened. I think actually there were 3 of them, and there was a younger one, I can remember, who came up and did most of the talking. And I had to say, I'm terribly sorry. I had to look it up through the book and flick over the pages, and I was terribly sorry none of your works are on show. Because it was after the exhibition. So I mean, I didn't know that much about art history before I came to work at the Tate. I've learned all I knew about art history from working there. And but I knew about him, and I knew who he was, and I knew that we had none of his works on show, and it was just the most awful experience. And I think, and there's nothing I could do about it, just nothing I could do. And I just thought it was so awful, because at that time the Tate had a really strange hanging policy, and they would never show any works by Lowry because he was too popular and not well thought of. What else didn't they like? They had the phases of, really disapproving, I don't think they disapproved of Bacon at the time. Anyway, there weren't anything on show, and there was a strict recycling scheme to the hangs. But, he was absolutely charming about it, and he was so nice. And like Dave said, we didn't show... No, I think he did actually smile. You could probably see how upset I was. But it was dreadful. There was no one I could ask, It was just... I was just stuck. And so they, never mind, and they were just so gracious, And I was just very struck by that, actually, because I've had other people on the information desk. You get all sorts, and you've had a sculptor who I won't mention his name. He came striding in. Do you know who I am? And you got used to all sorts, Also had charming people. Michael Palin used to come in a lot. He was lovely. And Charlton Heston came in once. He didn't have any paintings to worry about.
Isn't Charlton Heston the one where you didn't see him?
I'd rather you didn't say that.
Sorry.
No, I did see him later, but it was Christine got all the glory with him, my companion on the Tate desk. So, yeah.
Kicking each other under the table.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I was devoting myself to somebody else, giving them the gold star treatment. So, yeah, you can cut that as well if you like.
Would you like to say anything about 7 Cromwell Place that you mentioned earlier?
Yes. Right, I used to work at quite a few years actually at the Art Fund, as it is now. It was the National Art Collections Fund then. This probably would have been, it would have been the early 1990s. We actually, when I worked for the Art Fund, as it is now, we'd moved from a place actually next to Tate Britain as part of the old nurses' home in Atterbury Street, and moved and refurbished 7 Cromwell Place and do a beautiful job with it. And we were told that Francis Bacon had also had his studio there, after Millet, who had his studio there. But it's beautiful, great high ceilings. That was, just round the corner from here. I don't know how long he was there for. But it was a nice connection.